Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone. And peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into Ezekiel, the 47th chapter. And, continuing from where we left off in the 46th chapter. Now, when you go into the 47th chapter, Ezekiel is still within this vision that the Lord is showing him. However, the things that he sees here in the 47th chapter, mainly about the first half, I believe like the first 12 or 13 or so verses, are also symbolic, to represent ultimately this truth coming forth and spreading, as we're about to read. Okay, so I have a couple of precepts here that can go with that, but afterwards, and it goes back into just the regular measurements and allotments of the land and so on and so forth. So this is the book of Ezekiel chapter 47 verse 1. Water from the temple. Afterward he brought me again onto the door of the house, and behold, waters issued out from under the threshold of the house eastward, for the forefront of the house stood toward the east, and the waters came down from the right side of the house at the south side of the altar. So pretty much this temple, that Ezekiel is being led through by the angel. It says here the angel brought him to the door of the house, and he behold, waters issued out from under the threshold. And these waters represent this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, collectively as we call it the truth, of Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai. And the waters issuing, from out of the threshold, it's going to go into, as we keep on going in each verse, as to how the waters start off, at a small, basically, but eventually the waters continue to rise and rise and rise, and it pretty much, overwhelms the place and even Ezekiel. All right, but it also goes into how it brings life. And that's pretty much the truth, where at one point, the Lord had taken it away from us, but going back, starting with our elders and their elders, the Lord brought that truth back to us, and it started all small, but you can see today, it's pretty much everywhere. All right, it's been flooded. It's pretty much flooding the whole world as well as the internet. So, as it says here, afterward he brought me again onto the door of the house, and behold, waters issued out from under the threshold of the house eastward, meaning from under that door, for the forefront of the house stood toward the east. And it's spiritual, because this house being this temple, the Lord also likened us, to that temple, that third temple. Right? It's not the third temple in itself. It's not going to be a physical temple per se, but more so the elect, all right, or the house of David. And there's many scriptures, a couple in the New Testament that mention that we are the temple of the Lord. Okay, so this water is coming forth from those vessels, primarily the elect. Okay, the men, that the Lord has given this knowledge to spread it forth. It says, to the forefront of the house stood toward the east. For the forefront of the house stood toward the east, and the waters came down from under the right side of the house at the south side of the altar. Then brought he me out of the way of the gate northward, and led me about the way without unto the other gate, by the way that looketh eastward. And behold, there ran out waters on the right side. And when the man that had the line in his hand went forth eastward, he measured 1,000 cubits. He brought me through the waters. The waters were to the ankles. Again, he measured 1,000 and brought me through the waters. The waters were to the knees. Again, he measured 1,000 and brought me through the waters. The waters were to the loins. So once again, going into the progression of this truth, right, as it started off, quote unquote small, but as time went on, you had more and more individuals that were getting woken up, that were becoming aware of it. And then you had, they started going out and teaching. And then you had moments like, I believe it was like 2007 or so, or 2009, I believe it's 2007. But when the apostles, went on YouTube, and, the word started to spread even more and more and more. Okay, and in here, it's likened onto the waters rising, higher and higher and higher. Okay, from the ankles to the knees, to the loins, which is like your waist area. Right now, before we keep reading, let's get a quick precept on this. This is the book of Ezekiel, 2nd Esdras, chapter 6, verse 28. As for faith, it shall flourish. Corruption shall be overcome. And this in this here is referring to these last days, all right, especially in these times. Corruption shall be overcome, and the truth, which hath been so long without fruit, shall be declared. And that's why, because it had been so long without fruit, when it started to be declared, it was likened onto the waters that were first coming out from the threshold, and then they started to rise. More and more men started to hear this word. More and more of the elect started to wake up. The word started to spread more and more and more, all the way up until it reached the four corners of the earth. And that's likened onto that water rising and rising and rising, so it pretty much covered everything. So let's go back to the book of Ezekiel 47, verse 5. Afterward he measured 1,000, and it was a river that I could not pass over, for the waters were risen, waters to swim in, a river that could not be passed over. Okay, and pretty much that's what this truth is. It like we just read in 2nd Esdras 6 and 28. It is grown to the point where now it's you can't, as Ezekiel said, cross over. It's like a river, where everywhere you turn, you're seeing men, prophets, teachers. You're hearing about the Israelites. You're hearing about the and even different aspects of this truth. It might not be that every person you speak to knows every single thing about it, but bits and pieces are here and there. Okay, to where all four corners of the world have been flooded, I should say, with this truth. Okay, so now we get a couple precepts on here. Actually, let me read this 6th verse, and then I'll get a couple precepts. So it says here, and he said unto me, Son of man, hast thou seen this? Then he brought me and caused me to return to the brink of the river. Now when I had returned, behold, at the bank of the river were very many trees on the one side and on the other. Then said he unto me, These waters issue out toward the east country, and go down into the desert, and go into the sea, which being brought forth into the sea, the waters shall be healed. Okay, so the east country, ultimately being the main place in the east, which is Jerusalem. Okay, but then also because the waters represent the truth. Okay, and that ultimate truth came, really, the understanding started when Yahushua came on the scenes, which began the last days. Okay, but it started over there, as the Lord said, he would raise up the tents of Judah first. Okay, and then, the Lord had it to where in this time, he started it back up again. But as it says, and go down into the desert. Okay, and the desert here represents the us in a dead-like state. Okay, which when you read in the book of Ezekiel, the 37th chapter, it goes into that, the valley of dry bones. So the waters issue toward the east country and to the desert, and go into the sea, which when you read in the Revelation 17, it mentions the sea as peoples, nations, kindreds, and tongues. Okay, it says, which being brought forth into the sea, the waters shall be healed. See, so wherever this water spread and reached, it brought that healing. Okay, and ultimately meaning that where this knowledge went to, it started to heal, by first making, first and foremost, the elect, aware, okay, ultimately of who they were, the name of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, our heritage, what we're supposed to be doing. And this starts that healing process of the nation. So now let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 2. And it reads, really I'll start at 1. Give ear, O ye heavens, and I will speak. And hear, O earth, the words of my mouth. My doctrine shall drop as the rain. My speech shall distill as the dew, as the small rain upon the tender herbs, and as showers upon the grass. Okay, and that's what the Lord hears like an example of the doctrine, or this truth being likened unto rain, okay, or dew, as here in Ezekiel 47 it's being likened unto water that rises to the point where it covers, it becomes overwhelming, but that water also heals, wherever it goes. Okay, and now let me see what else I got here. I'll bring this out. This is Isaiah 41 and 17. When the poor and needy seek water, and there is none, and their tongue faileth for thirst, I, the Lord Yahweh, will hear them. I, the God of Israel, will not forsake them. Okay, and spiritually, the poor and needy here would be the nation of Israel, but starting with the elect, because the water here being the truth, the elect are the ones that are going to be seeking that water. They're going to be seeking that truth, that understanding. Okay, and as it says, and there is none, and their tongue faileth for thirst, I, the Lord, will hear them and will not forsake them. See, and that's why, seeking this word, the Lord ultimately brought it back to us to bring about that healing. And then that's why when you read in Ezekiel 37, it describes us going from bones, to the bones coming together, then the sinews and the flesh and so on and so forth, and then the breath, and ultimately we became alive and living, which is a part of that healing. Okay. See what else I got that might go well with this. Here's a good one too. Habakkuk chapter 2 verse 14. For the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, as the waters cover the sea. See, once again, this is another precept likening the knowledge of the Lord and how it's spreading through the earth as waters covering the sea. Okay, so now going back to Ezekiel chapter 47, let's see, verse 9. Now, when we read up above, it mentioned the trees, right? Verse 7, now when I had returned, behold, at the bank of the river were very many trees on the one side and the other. And those trees also represent, depending on the precepts you go to, can also be metaphorical for people. Okay? And so remember that these waters, as we're reading, wherever they went, into the desert, into the seas, they healed it. Okay? And if the waters representing the truth, and the trees representing the elect, okay, those that are being nourished, okay, by those waters or by that truth. So now let's go to the book of Psalms, chapter 1, verse 2. It says here, but his delight is in the law of the Lord Yahweh, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. See, so once again, likening, those that meditate on the law of the Lord, those that, give their heart wholly to the Lord, are likened unto a tree planted by rivers of water. And we know that a tree planted by rivers of water will get sufficient, water that it needs in order to grow properly and appropriately. Okay. So now let's go back to Ezekiel chapter 47, verse 9. And it shall come to pass that everything that liveth, which moveth, whithersoever the rivers shall come, shall live. And there shall be a very great multitude of fish, because these waters shall come thither, for they shall be healed, and everything shall live whither the river cometh. And so the living things, the fish, and so on and so forth, represent the elect. Okay, because wherever they are, when the water or when the truth got there or gets there, it heals them. Okay, it brings them to life. But this isn't the case for everybody. All right, but as it says, and it shall come to pass that everything that liveth, which moveth, because what makes us living ultimately in the sight of the Lord is knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. And as a matter of fact, we can go to Proverbs 21:16 real quick, and it reads, "The man that wandereth out of the way of understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead." Now, somebody that lacks understanding, which understanding is tied to knowledge and wisdom, because you need something to understand, but somebody that lacks that is not necessarily a dead man physically. Okay, there are a lot of people walking about today that have life in them, but they lack understanding, they lack knowledge, they lack wisdom, ultimately of the Heavenly Father and of the and of this truth. But they're not physically dead because of that. Okay, so here when it says that they're dead, it means that this is how, for lack of a better term, they're spiritually dead. They're not awakened. They're not living before the Lord. Okay, because they're out of the way of understanding. See, so when you come into the way of understanding by way of the waters, which is this truth, you become what? Alive. You become living. And that's why it says, whithersoever, so wherever the river shall come, shall live. So all the living things, wherever the river goes, i.e., wherever this truth goes, whether it's Africa or America or Canada or Europe or whatnot, the elect amongst there, when they hear it, or when they get exposed to it, they will start to live again. The word of the Lord entered into us, and we will start to live again. Okay, and there shall be a very great multitude of fish, which this is described as an exceeding great army in I think it's in Revelation 11 as well as Ezekiel 37. Because these waters shall come thither, for they shall be healed, and everything shall live whither the river cometh. Verse 10, and it shall come to pass that the fishers shall stand upon it from En-gedi even unto Eneglaim, which these were, let's see, En-gedi. These were locations, I believe, in ancient Israel. They'll probably give approximations. Let me see the map. Yeah, so you can see the land of Judah is on the left, and the Salt Sea or the Dead Sea, and so on and so forth. Okay, just to give a depiction of where approximately it would have been located. Anyway, back to Ezekiel 47 and 10. And it shall come to pass that the fishers shall stand upon it from En-gedi even unto Eneglaim. They shall be a place to spread forth nets. Their fish shall be according to their kinds, as the fish of the great sea, exceeding many. Now, keep in mind that what did Yahweh say? I believe he said that to the Apostle Peter. Of men. Yeah, this is Matthew chapter 4, verse 19. And he saith unto them, right, so not just the Apostle Peter, but I believe Peter and Andrew. Let me actually start at 18. And Yahushua, walking by the Sea of Galilee, saw two brethren, Simon called Peter, and Andrew his brother, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishers. And he saith unto them, Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. Okay, and right now, we, the teachers, are fishers, and we are fishing for the elect. And that net that we're spreading or we're throwing out there into the water is this knowledge, is this truth. Okay, so once again, in verse 10, metaphorically, right, it shall come to pass that the fishers shall stand upon it from En-gedi even unto Eneglaim. They shall be a place to spread forth nets. Their fish shall be according to their kinds. See, so the fish or the elect, right, which when you catch them, they're going to be according to their kind, meaning that they're all going to be of one spirit, number one. And number two, they're going to be Israelites, right? We're not going to be fishing for heathens or other nations. We're going to be fishing for Israelites, primarily the elect. That's why they're going to be of that one kind, all right, or of their kind, as the fish of the great sea exceeding many. Okay. And I think there's another precept that likens this truth onto catching fish, but not every fish is like a good fish. So some you toss back. See if I can find that. I know it's in the New Testament. Let's see. Yeah, no, can't find it. Never mind. But I'm sure you know what precept I'm referring to here. Anyway, verse 11, but the miry places thereof and the marishes thereof shall not be healed. They shall be given to salt. See, so the water is going to be, basically spread all throughout, and you're going to have the elect get fished, out of it. But the miry places, which are the places that contain the, the heathens and the non-desirables, they're not going to be healed. Okay, meaning the water, wherever this water goes, it's not going to, heal them. Like you have, for example, in America today, you got the elect in here, but you also got people that are not of the elect that are in here. And the water has been spread throughout here, but not everybody is healed. Okay, because ultimately only they that have life are the ones that are going to be, made alive again, which are, once again, the elect. And as it says here, they shall be given to salt. And by the river, upon the bank thereof, on this side and on that side, shall grow all trees for meat, whose leaf shall not fade, neither shall the fruit thereof be consumed. Right? So once again, likening the elect, okay, onto these trees, right, that are by the bank of the river. Okay, like I read in Psalms, the 1st chapter, they're gonna grow, as it says, they shall grow all trees for meat, whose leaf shall not fade, neither shall the fruit thereof be consumed. All right, meaning that you're gonna grow in this knowledge, and you're gonna be established. All right, you're gonna be good. You're not gonna be consumed like the rest. And shall bring forth new fruit according to his months, because their waters they issued out of the sanctuary, and the fruit thereof shall be for meat, and the leaf thereof for medicine. Okay, and this is not literal per se, okay, but it represents the state or the condition that those that received this water and were nourished by it would be in, which is likened onto a good tree that can produce, good fruit and medicinal herbs within its leaves or its leaves. And the last precept I want to get on this, connecting the waters to this knowledge, is John chapter 7, verse 38. He that believeth on me, as the scripture hath said, out of his belly shall flow rivers of what? Living water. Okay, and what are the rivers of living water? The rivers of living water is this knowledge, this truth, and it comes out of the elect. Okay, those that believe upon the Lord, primarily really the teachers, the prophets. Okay, so now let's go back and continue Ezekiel chapter 47, verse 13. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh. So like I said, the first about 12 verses are now Ezekiel did actually see what he's describing here, right? He saw the temple, he saw the waters and all of that. Okay, but it also represents, this truth being spread and healing and waking up the elect. Okay, similar to other prophets, right? Because keep in mind that a lot of these visions that the prophets received, they received them in metaphoric or like dark parables. Like it wasn't apparent exactly what it was. Even sometimes, although the angel would explain it to them, they wouldn't necessarily get it. Okay, but remember that a lot of the things that they saw have meanings. They saw it in one way, but it actually means another thing, which the Lord gave us the understanding now to be able to decipher and break down and explain. Okay, but they didn't actually see the meaning of it. So one example of what I'm referring to here is the Apostle John. The Apostle John, while he was exiled on the island of Patmos, when he received those visions, let's take Revelation the 17th chapter for an example. When he received those visions and he saw Babylon, or the woman sitting upon the beast and all of that, and upon many waters, he saw an actual woman, but we know that that represents this place, which is America, because there are certain visions where he actually saw America, but the places where he says he saw a woman, he saw a woman. He wouldn't see a city and then say, I saw a woman, because a city is not a woman. But he did see a woman, but we know that that woman represents, X, Y, and Z. Anyway, Ezekiel 47:13, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, this shall be the border whereby ye shall inherit the land according to the 12 tribes of Israel. Joseph shall have 2 portions, and ye shall inherit it, one as well as another, concerning the which I lifted up mine hand to give it unto your fathers, and this land shall fall unto you for inheritance. And this shall be the border of the land toward the north side, from the great sea, the way of Helthon, as men go to Zedad. And we look up Helthon, Chathalan. All right, it says here, hiding place, a place on the north border of Palestine, site unknown. And that's the thing, right? These, when you type in Google Images, for example, or you try to find a map of the exact locations of these areas, some of them are prominent enough to where they can identify it. One example being archaeologists who would go to that area, and they would search and excavate and dig up things, and based on the things that they find, they can identify what place this is. So if it's Jerusalem, for an example, they know enough from what the scriptures say about Jerusalem to be able to use the artifacts that they find to say, oh, this makes sense that this place was Jerusalem, or this place was this or was that, right? But that's not the case for every city that we read about here. So sometimes when you look into it, it might tell you it's unknown, or sometimes when you look it up online, you won't get an exact area where it is, or maybe they'll give you an approximation of where it could have been. But there's no way to really tell, because once again, if you're reading about a city that is mentioned in the Old Testament thousands of years ago, and lots of things have happened, earthquakes have happened, natural disasters have happened, all of these things have happened. The land has been besieged, it has been destroyed, it has been rebuilt, it has been, changed up. So if you go in there in modern day times to try and pinpoint exactly where it was, it's going to be very different. All right, so it's not always that you'll get the exact location of these places. Just wanted to mention that. Anyway, let's continue on. Yeah, let's continue reading. This is verse 16. Hamath, Berotha, Sibraim, which is between the border of Damascus and the border of Hamath, Hazar Hatikon, which is by the coast of Hauran, and the border from the sea of Hazaranan, the border of Damascus, and the northward, and the border of Hamath, and this is the north side. And what you can do is, if you're interested, you can look up ancient map or map of ancient Israel, and then you can correlate that with what you're reading here to see if you can identify a few things in there. Verse 18, and the east side ye shall measure from Hauran, and from Damascus, and from Gilead, and from the land of Israel by Jordan, from the border onto the east sea, and this is the east side. And the south side toward southward from Tamar, even to the waters of strife in Kadesh, the river to the great sea, and this is the south side southward. The west side also shall be the great sea from the border till a man come over against Hamath. This is the west side. So shall ye divide this land unto you according to the tribes of Israel. And it shall come to pass that ye shall divide it by lot for an inheritance unto you, and to the strangers that sojourn among you, which shall beget children among you, and they shall be unto you as born in the country among the children of Israel. They shall have inheritance with you among the tribes of Israel. Now, let's look into the word stranger or strangers here. And you can see the word here is gar. Okay, or here it says gawar, but really gar, which these strangers here are actually the Israelites. Okay, these are not talking about heathens. The Most High would not, the first thing, even if you didn't know what this word meant, the first thing, if you had context about the scriptures, is to say it does not make sense in a million years for the Most High to say that heathens would have inheritance with us among the tribes of Israel. Okay, that doesn't make sense at all. As a matter of fact, the in the law, you know, a part of the ordinances is that when because the inheritance is the land. So if a man who had this land only had daughters, his daughters would have to ultimately marry somebody of his tribe, so that that inheritance remains within the tribe, and it doesn't you know, ultimately get shifted and get mixed up. So even between tribes of the nation, there was a particular way to go about it, let alone heathens having an inheritance amongst us. Absolutely no. Okay, but as we go into that word gar, as it says here, a stranger, sojourner, this is like an Israelite foreigner per se, but these are Israelites. Okay, so they were also entitled to you know, to land, okay, or inheritance within the land, because they were also Israelites. And that's why it says, and to the strangers that sojourn among you, which shall beget children among you, and they shall be unto you as born in the country among the children of Israel. They shall have inheritance with you among the tribes of Israel. So these are talking about Israelites. These strangers are not heathens. Verse 23, and it shall come to pass that in what tribe the stranger sojourneth, there shall ye give him his inheritance, saith the Lord Yahweh. And the heathens have no inheritance, no part, or I should say, no part of our inheritance. Okay, so absolutely no way this would be talking about heathens. Okay, so that's also another way you can figure out when you're reading a particular verse and you come across strangers. Look at the context of the verse. Anyway, with that, I'm going to end it here. Lord willing, this is edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Kodash. Until next time, Shalom.